The story of Project Stardust is deeply woven into the fabric of the Galactic Empire's rise to dominance and the fear it instilled across the galaxy. At the heart of this narrative lies Orson Krennic, the director of the Advanced Weapons Research Division, a man driven by ambition, ingenuity, and a ruthless determination to leave an indelible mark on history. Krennic's obsession with creating the Death Star, an unprecedented superweapon capable of annihilating entire planets, formed the bedrock of his vision for Imperial supremacy. The secrecy surrounding the construction and eventual deployment of the Death Star not only demonstrated Krennic's cunning, but also highlighted the Empire's masterful manipulation of truth and perception to control the populace. From the earliest days of the Empire's formation, the concept of a planet-destroying weapon existed as a whisper within its highest echelons. The destruction of the Jedi Order and the reorganization of the Galactic Republic into the Empire under Emperor Palpatine marked a paradigm shift in galactic governance. Fear and coercion replaced democracy and diplomacy as the Empire sought to cement its dominion. Krennic's Project Stardust was envisioned as the ultimate tool of terror, a means to enforce loyalty by rendering resistance futile. Yet the weapon's immense scale and the implications of its power necessitated an extraordinary level of secrecy. To ensure the Death Star's existence remained hidden from both the galaxy at large and the Empire's internal factions, Krennic employed a combination of misinformation, obfuscation, and compartmentalization. The foundations of Project Stardust were laid under the guise of benign initiatives, such as industrial development and resource extraction. These programs were officially described as efforts to rebuild the galaxy following the Clone Wars, an era of devastation that had left many star systems in disarray. Krennic exploited these narratives, directing vast amounts of resources toward the secret construction sites of the Death Star. Entire planets were strip-mined, their natural wealth siphoned to feed the insatiable demands of the project. Workers and engineers, unaware of the larger design, toiled tirelessly on individual components, their contributions anonymized and scattered to prevent any single faction from piecing together the truth. Krennic's brilliance lay not only in his ability to manage this vast logistical undertaking, but also in his capacity to navigate the treacherous waters of Imperial politics. As the primary architect of Project Stardust, he was keenly aware of the threats posed by rivals within the Empire, particularly figures like Grand Moff Tarkin, who shared Krennic's ambition but possessed a more refined political acumen. To safeguard his position, Krennic carefully cultivated alliances while neutralizing potential threats, often resorting to intimidation or outright elimination when necessary. He understood that the success of Project Stardust and his legacy depended on maintaining control over the project and ensuring that the Emperor's confidence in him remained unshaken. At the same time, Krennic's pursuit of perfection created vulnerabilities. His reliance on Galen Erso, a brilliant scientist coerced into developing the Death Star's superlaser, introduced an element of unpredictability. Erso's personal conflict and eventual rebellion against the Empire would later prove to be a critical flaw in the project. Yet during the construction phase, Krennic was relentless in suppressing dissent and containing information leaks. Entire colonies vanished overnight, erased from records to prevent the possibility of discovery. Any rumors of a secret weapon were dismissed as conspiracy theories or attributed to rebel propaganda, a tactic that sowed doubt and confusion among those who sought the truth. One of the most fascinating aspects of Krennic's strategy was his manipulation of Coruscant's political and cultural elite. By presenting Project Stardust as a theoretical research endeavor aimed at advancing energy technology, Krennic secured the necessary funding and support without revealing the weapon's true purpose. This approach not only ensured a steady flow of resources, but also insulated the project from scrutiny. The Senate, already weakened by Palpatine's consolidation of power, lacked the means or the will to investigate such matters deeply. Meanwhile, the few senators who suspected foul play were marginalized or silenced, their voices drowned out by the Empire's propaganda machinery. Despite these efforts, the scale of the project made it impossible to conceal entirely. The Empire relied on an intricate web of secrecy, compartmentalization, and fear to keep the truth from emerging. Those involved in the project were subjected to strict surveillance and harsh penalties for disobedience. Entire divisions worked in isolation, unaware of how their contributions fit into the larger design. Even high-ranking officials within the empire were kept in the dark, their access to information limited by layers of bureaucracy and deception. Krennic's personal obsession with the Death Star often brought him into conflict with his peers and superiors. He saw the project as a testament to his genius, a symbol of his indispensable role within the empire. Yet his singular focus blinded him to the political machinations of figures like Tarkin, who recognized the Death Star's potential as a tool for consolidating power. Tarkin's ability to outmaneuver Krennic and ultimately assume control of the project demonstrated the ruthless nature of imperial politics and the dangers of unchecked ambition. For the broader galactic populace, the existence of the Death Star remained a closely guarded secret until its dramatic unveiling. The Empire's propaganda machine worked tirelessly to suppress any information that might undermine its narrative of peace and order. When the Death Star was finally deployed against Alderaan, its devastating power served as both a warning and a declaration of supremacy. The annihilation of an entire planet was intended to demonstrate the futility of resistance, a message calculated to instill terror and submission across the galaxy. Yet the very secrecy and compartmentalization that had enabled the Death Star's construction also sowed the seeds of its downfall. The suppression of information and the marginalization of dissent created blind spots within the Empire's hierarchy. Krennic's underestimation of Galen Erso's defiance and the subsequent leak of the Death Star's schematics to the Rebel Alliance revealed the limitations of the Empire's strategy. The Rebel assault on Scarif, which exposed the station's critical vulnerability, was a direct consequence of the Empire's failure to recognize and address the growing resistance. As Project Stardust reached its tragic conclusion, Krennic's legacy was overshadowed by the very forces he sought to dominate. His dream of unrivaled power and recognition ended in chaos and destruction, a testament to the hubris and moral decay at the heart of the Empire. The secrecy that had shielded the Death Star ultimately became its undoing, as the lies and deceptions upon which it was built unraveled in the face of truth and rebellion. The story of Krennic and Project Stardust is a compelling exploration of ambition, secrecy, and the lengths to which individuals and institutions will go to maintain control. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the fragility of systems built on fear and deception. As the galaxy grappled with the aftermath of the Death Star's destruction, the lessons of Krennic's rise and fall echoed across generations, a reminder that even the most formidable empires are not immune to the consequences of their actions. The secrecy surrounding Project Stardust and the Death Star's construction was not only a reflection of Krennic's obsessive need for control, but also a key feature of the Emperor's strategy to solidify his grip on the galaxy. Palpatine understood that fear was the ultimate weapon of the Empire, and the Death Star was its embodiment. However, the careful concealment of its existence was crucial not just for operational security, but to avoid premature rebellion among the galaxy's star systems. Even under the shadow of the Empire, many planets retained simmering unrest and a longing for the Republic's values of freedom and democracy. The revelation of such a weapon too early could have united disparate resistance groups into a formidable opposition, a risk the Empire could not afford. The genius of hiding the Death Star extended beyond physical secrecy. It was also ideological. The Empire fostered an illusion of normalcy in its controlled territories. Coruscant, the galactic capital, became a shining example of this facade. There, the elite lived in relative peace and luxury, shielded from the brutal realities of imperial expansion and oppression in the Outer Rim. By maintaining a semblance of civility at the Empire's heart, Palpatine ensured that potential dissent among influential political and economic figures would remain minimal. These elites, blinded by privilege, had no reason to question the Empire's actions or suspect the existence of a superweapon capable of erasing entire worlds. Krennic's role in this deception was both critical and complicated. He was not a politician by nature, but he recognized the need to operate within the framework of imperial bureaucracy. His interactions with key figures in the Senate and the imperial court often involved a delicate balance of flattery and coercion. Krennic would portray Project Stardust as a marvel of engineering and a triumph of the Empire's vision, carefully avoiding any discussion of its ultimate purpose. To the scientific community, he emphasized the theoretical advancements made possible by the project, presenting it as a milestone in energy research rather than a weapon of mass destruction. By segmenting the truth into palatable fragments, he ensured that even those closest to the project would be complicit in its creation without fully grasping its implications. This calculated misinformation extended to the galaxy's populace at large. The Empire employed an elaborate propaganda campaign to distract from the vast resource drains caused by the Death Star's construction. When entire planetary systems were exploited or abandoned, the official narrative framed these events as necessary sacrifices for the greater good of galactic unity. Any resistance was swiftly and brutally suppressed, with the Empire's media outlets portraying rebels as dangerous insurgents threatening peace and stability. By controlling the flow of information, the Empire created an environment where questioning its authority was not only dangerous but futile. The choice of construction sites for the Death Star was another masterstroke of strategic concealment. Remote and desolate systems, often in the Outer Rim, were ideal for hiding such a massive undertaking. These regions, already neglected by the Republic, were perfect targets for exploitation under the Empire. Planets like Geonosis, where the initial designs for the station were finalized, and later Scarif, where critical archives were housed, became focal points of this grand deception. Krennic's meticulous planning ensured that even in these isolated locations, the workforce was heavily monitored and compartmentalized. Those who worked on the Death Star were often coerced laborers, prisoners, or beings whose lives were deemed expendable by the Empire. Once their purpose was served, they were silenced either by being relocated to other Imperial projects or, in many cases, eliminated entirely. Krennic's relationship with Galen Erso encapsulated the moral and ethical rot at the core of the project. Erso, a pacifist and a brilliant scientist, was drawn into the Empire's web through a combination of deceit and coercion. Krennic presented the project to Erso as an opportunity to revolutionize energy production, deliberately obscuring its military applications. When Erso realized the truth, he attempted to escape the Empire's grasp, but Krennic, recognizing the scientist's indispensability, pursued him relentlessly. This dynamic revealed both Krennic's cunning and his underlying desperation. While he was willing to use any means necessary to achieve his goals, his reliance on Erso also made him vulnerable. The seeds of rebellion were sown within the very foundation of the Death Star, as Erso covertly worked to sabotage the project by embedding a critical weakness in its design. This weakness, which would later lead to the Death Star's destruction, was not merely a technical flaw, but a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of tyranny. Erso's defiance and his ultimate sacrifice highlighted the limitations of the Empire's strategy of fear and secrecy. While Krennic and his superiors believed that they could control every variable, they underestimated the power of individuals driven by a sense of justice and hope. The eventual exposure of the Death Star's existence came as a seismic shock to the galaxy. The Rebel Alliance's assault on Scarif, which culminated in the transmission of the station's schematics, was a turning point in the galactic civil war. It demonstrated that the Empire, despite its vast resources and seemingly unassailable power, was not infallible. The destruction of Alderaan, intended to be a show of strength, had the opposite effect, galvanizing resistance movements across the galaxy. The Empire's carefully constructed narrative of invincibility began to unravel as the truth about the Death Star's creation and purpose spread. Krennic's downfall was as inevitable as it was tragic. His unwavering ambition, which had driven him to achieve the unimaginable, also blinded him to the broader currents of Imperial politics and the growing tide of rebellion. His rivalry with Tarkin, who ultimately wrested control of the Death Star from him, symbolized the ruthless pragmatism of the Empire's hierarchy. Krennic's death during the Battle of Scarif marked the end of his personal journey, but also underscored the inherent instability of a system built on fear and deception. The story of Project Stardust and the secrecy surrounding the Death Star offers profound insights into the nature of power and the fragility of authoritarian regimes. While the Empire sought to create an unassailable weapon to enforce its rule, the very methods it used to achieve this goal sowed the seeds of its destruction. The compartmentalization and suppression of information that shielded the Death Star from discovery also prevented the Empire from recognizing and addressing the vulnerabilities within its own ranks. Moreover, the moral compromises required to bring such a weapon into existence reveal the cost of pursuing absolute control. Krennic's willingness to manipulate, exploit, and destroy in the name of progress exemplified the dehumanizing effects of the Empire's ideology. Yet his story is also a reminder of the resilience of hope and the enduring power of individuals to challenge oppression. The sacrifice of those who opposed the Death Star, from Galen Erso to the rebel agents who perished on Scarif, stands as a testament to the unyielding spirit of resistance in the face of overwhelming odds. As the galaxy continued to grapple with the legacy of the Death Star, the lessons of Project Stardust echoed across the stars. It was a tale of ambition and hubris, of secrecy and rebellion, of fear and hope. And in the end, it was a story that proved, once again, that even the most formidable empires are not invincible. The Death Star, the ultimate symbol of the Empire's power, became a monument to its arrogance and a rallying cry for those who dared to dream of freedom.